All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for sharing some of your precious time with us. Today, we're going to talk about Duet AI in Workspace and how it can change your workspace and your workflows. And we're going to have with us a few of the first testers of Duet AI, and from Etsy, from Fox Sports, and from Thoughtworks. And so I'll go right ahead to the next slide, please. I guess this is my clicker. Sorry, I should have asked how this works. There we go. So we're going to give a quick introduction of everyone. We're going to talk about why we should care about generative AI, how we're bringing it in Workspace, a discussion with the panel, and then the most exciting part will be questions that you may all have. So let's go ahead with the introductions. I'll start by myself. My name is Serge. I've been at Google for soon 17 years. I've built a lot of the video conferencing products that we have. I'm based out of Stockholm, Sweden, where we have our big Google Meet team there. And today I work with customers. I'm an outbound product manager, so I talk a lot to our biggest customers. I bring their feedback back into engineering and product, and I hopefully am able to communicate on where we're going and where all of this is going to bring us. And I'd like to welcome Dustin on stage. Please give a nice round of applause to Dustin. And Dustin, how about you tell us a little bit about your work and your background?
Happily. I'm Dustin Myers. I'm SVP of Production Operations for Fox Sports. My team is our media ecosystem, and we have engaged with Workspaces and Duet and a bunch of Google products over the years, and we're looking to grow what we do.
Great, thank you. And please give a round of applause to Mike. And Mike, you flew in from Canada for this.
Yep, from Calgary,
Great,
Canada.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And how about your background?
So I'm the Chief AI Officer with Thoughtworks, a job that I've been in for a whopping 10 weeks now, but I've been with the company for more than 20 years. We're a global technology consultancy. We do strategy, design, and engineering, which basically translates to us building a lot of software for and with our clients. And we use Google both to build software for our clients, but also for our internal productivity, email, and the full suite.
So when you abbreviate your title, do you say CAIO?
I think it's Chow.
Chow. Yeah, there's so many opportunities, right? Like CIA or Chow or. And last but not least, Shawn. Please join us on stage, Shawn. And it's a great variety of companies here. We have, the sports, the high-intensity sports, and then we have the deep consultancy and strategy, and now we have the people that bring, I guess, the human side of creation to millions of customers. Shawn, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. So I'm Shawn Carney. I am the head of IT at Etsy. And if you aren't familiar with Etsy, we are the vibrant online global marketplace that connects over 90 million sellers across the world with over 90 million buyers across the world with over 6 million sellers of unique and creative goods.
What's the most fun thing you've ever bought on Etsy?
I just bought my 4-year-old niece these butterfly wings that you can wear and flap around, and they're adorable, and very excited to send them to her.
For me, it was Back to the Future slippers. That looked like the shoes. I thought that was so cool, and I wouldn't have found that anywhere else.
We have a whole section on taxidermy, too, so if you're ever a little bored, feel free to go down that rabbit hole.
And we are gathered here today to talk about generative AI and why we should care about it. So I'll give a little bit of an introduction. And as you can see, we're going really high level, right? starting with the Industrial Revolution, started with steam power, where we could get machines to work in factories and with the belts connecting everything, and quite scary and dangerous work environments. And that was simplified tremendously with electricity, where you didn't have to have one central steam engine powering the whole factory anymore. You could have separate little motors everywhere. And then you started connecting these machines with computers and with the first mainframes. And these created a whole new category of employment with software programming, where people such as myself back in the day, hitting our heads on the table, trying to get a computer to really understand what we want it to do. And sometimes it feels like you need to scare the computer into doing what you want it to do. And connecting them, giving us the internet. But I think, while this is high level, and you might think, this isn't bigger than electricity. What's big for me as someone with a computer background is that it's the first time computers can understand you. And I like to use the sentence, the animal did not cross the street. It was too tired. What does it mean? Is it the animal or the street? We all know that it means the animal, but if I say the animal didn't cross the street, it was too wide, then our brains immediately know that it means the street. For the first time, computers know what it means. So if you're going to remember, if someone's going to say, oh, why is everyone crazy about generative AI and about AI in general, think of the word it. And this is the first time we know what it means in computer science. Before, we had to go look at all the text in the world and try to match sentences and do complex probabilities and statistics, and it would always get it wrong. But now it's getting it right, and it's getting it right often, a majority of the time. So this is why there's so much excitement about this. And when I joined Google in 2007, we had these big systems that talk with each other, but the algorithms we were developing were, just like when you develop software, if, then, else, right? A lot of if, then, else, and very complex if, then, else arrays, whereas we started in the early 2010s with some machine learning, where by feeding information over and over again and telling the computer, this is a dog, this is a cat, this is a dog, this is a cat, and then the computer could start predicting what's a dog and a cat. And we did machine learning this way. And you can see the evolution of this, right? From being able to beat champions at AlphaGo to being able to understand text with word2vec. And now you can just give a huge corpus of text to an AI and tell it, hey, tell me what this is about. It's a self-learning mechanism. And this is the evolution at Google. We've been pioneers in this, from writing the first research paper on word2vec, I think in 2012, to the transformer. The paper is called Attention is All You Need. I would have thought love was all you need, but attention is all you need, and that's the paper that transformed the whole industry. And it might feel like super complex stuff, but it isn't. It's actually readable and understandable, and I'd invite you to take a peek at these publications. So we're bringing this into Workspace. Now, many of you have used Bard, ChatGPT, Claude, all these systems where you prompt it. You prompt it and you try to tell it what to do. You try to tell it what to do. And then you try again and you try again and make it blue this time, make it red this time. The fun thing in Workspace is that there's context, right? If I'm in an email, there's context from the email. So that context follows. If I'm in a document, there's context in the document. So I like to say that Workspace is creating kind of you know how the web browser was the window into the internet? Well, we want Workspace to be the window into artificial intelligence. And you're going to see a lot of these animations. This is the people that have been testing Duet AI in our labs. They're able to have text being generated in a Google Doc, in an email. But for me, when I open a new doc and I need to start, that writer's block, that panic you get of seeing something that's just white with a cursor blinking, it's always, it takes a hump you need to go over the hump to get going. And this kind of like softens that for me. And the other use case that I felt no one really is talking about much anyhow is the mobile use case. Who here has written a long document on a phone? Right? There's not many. You're brave people. Same thing for answering long emails, right? You're just going to say, oh, I'll get back to that later. Or what do we usually do? We mark it as unread. And then we go back to it when we're at our computer. Well, what if instead of having to type something, you can just go and edit it and just make some small changes? That's a lot more compelling. And I think the mobile use case is going to be a very powerful one for people on the go. The other thing, thanks to the fact that we know what it means, we'll be able to start organizing your inbox. We'll be able to start summarizing things in ways you've never been able to summarize things before. So this is a defining moment. I think that we're going to look back in 10, 15 years at 2023 and say, yeah, this is where everything started, and all these new use cases started popping up, and you're going to remember coming to this conference and hearing it all about it first. So, I'll stop babbling. And I'd love to hear, so maybe we can start from there. Dustin, you'll be my first question today. What was your first aha moment? When did you think, oh, this could change things?
I think about 5 or 6 years ago, I actually was in Mountain View with my team, and they showed us, we always had complained that we could never find unlogged material in our systems, like our content management system. And I think they showed us, they said, well, what do you want to look for? And we said, I don't know, Tom Brady smiling. And there you go. And it was the first time I think I'd seen OCR, and I think it was an aha moment. And it was like, you can teach machines to know what images are, like you had said earlier, the it. Well, now if you can train a machine to understand imagery and then speech to text, and those were my aha moments. You didn't realize you were already using AI in some ways. Suggest finishing your sentences, or when you do Google searches, things like that. But I think that's the one I was thinking about walking over here today. Was looking back and seeing an OCR example. I think was the first time I saw its power.
Shawn, your aha moment? Not haha. Aha. There's a bit difference.
The clarification between the two. Yes. Very important. I think like most folks in this room, I've been following the progression in the industry for a number of years. And as an artist in my personal life, I actually have been really interested in seeing how AI intersects with how we create, right? There was a session yesterday by Rafik Anadol. If you haven't seen it, you should check out the video. And he has been partnering with Google to build amazing, mind-blowing art based on large quantities of data. And so if you think about him and his team as pioneers, and you think about artists who are usually at the forefront of revolutions, right? Whether it's cultural revolutions or other sorts of technological revolutions. I think a thing that I just had an aha moment about here in this space is how we can interact with the world around us and the data that we have in just transformatively different ways. And I thought that was really incredible. And so I'm super excited to see how all of us really take that and move forward over the next decade and more with it.
Mike?
So for me, it was a demo that I saw that one of our staff had built a few months ago of something he calls Boba AI, which is an AI assistant for doing kind of customer research and creative tasks. And it's a relatively straightforward UI over a large language model. But it allows you to type in things that as a consultant you might be interested in to do research on a client or to help create strategy for them. And then it would not just give you answers and ideas, but formulate them in a very specific way. So it was actually able to put stuff out in using the playing to win strategy framework. And although there were kind of holes and problems with it, I was like, oh wow, this is actually beyond just the programming use case, which I think lots of people have been talking about. This was like many roles in our business beyond that could be accelerated by AI.
Thank you. You've been pioneers testing this ahead of many of us, even ahead of us in Europe, because we got it a little bit later than so you were probably using these tools before I was. What have you seen in different departments? What have you seen, what are kind of the use cases you've seen and the things pop up? Maybe we can start with you, Shawn.
Sure. So from the engineering side, help with writing boilerplate code, help with understanding areas of the code base that engineers may not be as familiar with, super helpful. Even starting and editing internal blog posts, moving on to other areas of the business, all those pesky formulas and sheets, right? Getting a little insight into the right ones to use. And figuring out why maybe the outputs of one of your formulas and delivering what you're expecting as well. And then I used it recently for kind of a mundane task, which was doing a skills gap analysis across my team. And so I was able to create a template for that and then build out even a training, the framework for a training program based on that.
Neat. I can't wait for next tax season. Then I'll know. Then I know what I'm going to be using. Mike, how about yourself? What have you seen pop up with Workspace Duet AI?
So we had about 50 people testing it in kind of an organized way, and we tried to get feedback from them. The first thing that was interesting in the feedback was people were actively surprised at how good it was. So I think AI is a moving target now, and we actually saw over the course of testing that we would get better responses from the system. And we were all kind of joking earlier this morning as we were preparing for this that you folks have now announced a whole bunch of new features yesterday that actually we haven't really gotten to grips with yet. Yeah. But that kind of gives you an idea of how fast it's moving. But we have 11,000 people in 18 countries. And so a lot of those folks are not native English speakers. And so even just the help me write feature, the feedback we got was it was incredibly useful for people to feel more confident in their communications, to be able to express themselves clearly and professionally and all that kind of thing.
It brings a kind of equity across the world when everyone can express themselves more clearly and not be on the back foot of...
It does. I'm reminded of a skit from a TV show where one of the characters is very frustrated because she's a Spanish native and is having an argument with someone in English. And at one point she says, "Do you even know how smart I am in Spanish?" So that resonates strongly.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, what does Workspace allow you to do? It's a collaboration tool. So for us, we do global events, World Cups, things like that. We're in different countries.
Small things.
Yeah, small events. And there's a lot of operations management that goes into that. And obviously, Workspace has been great for us. But now what you've introduced is kind of like a collaboration robot, if you will, right? Something to help you along. And what we've seen is that across, operations management, project management, it gives you such a head start. If you want to, let's pick on the NFL season. Once you get your schedule, you can lay out every week just by telling Duet the parameters you want it to incorporate. And like you said, the pesky formulas, you're not doing that really anymore. It just lays it out. Like what would have potentially taken someone hours, it's kind of just done. Right. And then you can collaborate on it easily. We've done that kind of nuts and bolts stuff. We've even taken some copy, I won't say for what, and asked it to, rewrite it. just to more or less as an experiment to see what it can do. And truthfully, we haven't used it on air, but it is close enough to where with a little human editing, you could probably use it.
Right. Imagine, I can just imagine in sports broadcasting, like how things happen quickly, and imagine being able to get the quotes and the stats in real time as things are happening and never having to look up. It just figures it out.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Live television lends itself to a quick turnaround, and now you have tools at your disposal that we're just now starting to dip our toe in that water, but you really could use this in a way to shorten those gaps to get content on the air.
Super interesting. Mike, what's your favorite use? What are you most excited about for the next few months? Like, what do you say, like, this is going to be the one that's going to change things?
Well, so for my favorite use, it's actually being able to ask it dumb questions that I really ought to know the answer to, but that I'm too busy to figure out. So I'll give you an example of that. I had a personnel situation where I was trying to find people to join my team, and I had to try to let someone down gently. They're a great person, they could have done great on the team, but for one reason or another, it didn't work out. And I had a conversation with them, and it didn't go well. It was one of those sucky conversations where you're like, ugh, at the end of it, I did a bad job. And I actually ended up asking Bard how I could have handled that situation differently. And it came up with 8 to 10 points of things to think about. And it's not like those points were particularly earth-shattering, but it pulled them together in a sensible way that was specific to my context and kind of helped me, would have helped me handle that situation better. And I've done that same thing in advance of a few other conversations that were going to be tricky, and I found that useful. What I'm most excited about is the stronger integration into especially Gmail. So one of the things that I think AI systems have a little bit of a tendency to do is to write slightly bland output, right? Like there's something about AI-generated text that you can kind of half put your finger on. It uses the word crucial a lot. I never use the word crucial. So being able to, and this isn't quite here yet, but being able to train an AI much more on my voice, because there's thousands of emails that I've written, to make it sound a bit more like me. I'm excited about that because that will really save me some time and avoid me producing kind of wooden AI-generated stuff.
I often work with customers that are migrating from you-know-what to Google. And one of the things, and it's a change management journey, right? For some people that have been on Outlook for 25 years, coming to Gmail might be daunting. And when I talk to them and I say, why is it so hard to use Gmail? They say, well, I start my day, I spend an hour taking my emails and sorting them into the different folders. Is that productivity? But then I think, well, now with the Duet AI, and it's soon going to be able to give us the ability to organize your inbox for you. That's going to be, again, a complete different paradigm shift for the people that took emails, dropped them, took emails, dropped them. For me, my inbox is like the Matrix. It just goes flying by. but there's going to be a sort of redefinition of what does it mean to be productive? What does it mean to be on top of things? What does it mean to create? Yeah. Dustin?
No, I think that my favorite is probably something I haven't quite done. I've been bugging you guys to do the Drive integration since we became trusted testers. And to me, that's kind of one of the big humps to get this over.
So like take this shared drive and learn from it.
Right. I think it's all about aiming it at a corpus of data that is intimate to your organization or to yourself, and then having it use that pool of data to pull it in, right? So if it's accessing all my documents, then when I ask it, like you said, help me write what? Well, you could, I think they showed it yesterday, you could highlight a template you've already used and you base that. I mean, for something I already use, shifting gears to answer your question more directly, look, just the help me write and the help me revise function is saving me hours. I'll just be honest. Whether it's, all of us are in companies to one degree or another, and there's a lot of justifying things and writing things, and it gets you started down that path like you said, you stare at the blinking thing.
Yes.
Like, oh, how do I justify this to, finance or whatnot? It helps you get down those roads. And I think that's probably my favorite part that I'm using today.
I almost want it to do the same typos and the same grammatical errors that I do, right? I want it to feel like it comes from me, and not, because oftentimes when you have these text generation, you go back and you try to add your own voice or your own touch to it. How about you, Shawn?
Yeah, I don't think I have a better answer than these two answers. That's that personalization, and at the individual level, but also at the company level, right? Because a lot of times it's fine to get a generic either summary or a generic start to something, but being able to have a response that has your company's values embedded into it, your company's voice, your own voice, I think that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Thank you. And so, Mike, you are a chief AI officer. So what's going to be the job of a chief AI officer, and how do you think of this long term when there's so much short-term change?
So my job, at least the chief AI officer for a consulting firm,
and you're one of the most long-tenured chief officer, AI officer in the world after 10 weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So what I'm trying to do is accelerate the company's adoption of generative AI into everything that we do. So that's into our services that we offer to clients. So for example, we have product development services where we can help a client ideate and go from 0 to 1 on their product journey, and we're accelerating that with generative AI. We help clients do what we broadly call enterprise modernization, which is dealing with all the old crusty systems and then creating new stuff, not just lift and shift, but creating new and awesome systems using modern software. And generative AI is a powerful tool to help us analyze those things. We're looking at how Gen AI should be incorporated into the craft of software creation. So at Thoughtworks, we pride ourselves on being on the leading edge of bringing the best techniques and the best process around how to build software. And Gen AI is going to be a big, important part of that, not just in code generation, which I think everybody latches onto that because, in the first place, code is magical to non-coders, and now you can just produce it instantly, so that's like extra magical. But there's tons of stuff that you do besides just coding.
Documenting it,
deciding what to do in the first place, strategizing around it. So we're looking at it for that. And then we're also figuring out how to bring it into all of our company functions because we're a regular company like everybody else. One of the things that we do a lot of is staffing, matching people and their skills with projects and opportunities and client requirements, and being able to use Gen AI to go into unstructured documents like somebody's resume and employment history and their aspirations and goals and how they want to grow, and being able to match that up with the actual opportunities we've got, that's incredibly useful. So.
Thank you. How will it change sports broadcasting?
I mean, I think that, look, most television is at least pre-produced television or films. It's not that you necessarily are finished. You just run out of time or money, right?
Right.
So I think that in a broad sense, when you have a collaboration, tool here that can save you money or save you time, get you to step 4 or step 5 in your process quickly. Now you have more of one of the resources that you usually run out with that dictates the quality and oftentimes your end product. So I think that with that time savings, I think it's a huge shift for everyone, right? I mean, we're talking about these simple things, writing an email. Well, if you don't have to stare at the blank page and you've already got a template that you just have to edit to make it sound like your voice, well, that's done. You move on to the next thing. So I think it will change. I mean, I think that I have a lot personally, and my team who's here has heard a lot of this, is the art of what's possible. I want to start pointing, some of the, text to video or text to image to our corpus and start to create imagery based on what our 30-year history of images is, and start to, define more and more of what we can create that way and train it. I mean, I do think there's a risk, though, like we talked about earlier, of as you create these models, like, well, where do those models go?
Right.
But I do think that in the net, it's going to make everything we do better or give us more tools.
What's daunting for me a little bit is that we all have to retool ourselves. Everything we know, how we do things is changing so quick, and I have to think, like you said, okay, I'm doing it this way, and I've always done it this way, but why? And what happens if I try to change it and push myself? And for Etsy, which is quite a unique organization, where do you see this going and changing the company?
Yeah, great question. So if we look at AI more broadly, I think that's been part of our strategy for a number of years and something we've been investing in, both to help power our search results and in other spaces, starting to explore it in our trust and safety areas where there's just massive amounts of data, and the faster we can kind of get signal on that, the better we serve folks. And then to speak to the education piece, I think this is the strategy that's really needed right now to create the runway for the rest of the business, right? What types of guardrails do we need to start putting in place? What types of compliance and legal frameworks do we need to start planning for, both for today and for the future, right? Because where we are today is still, again, it's pioneering. If you take that Simon Wardley's concept, right, of pioneers and settlers, we are very much pioneers in this space right now. And when I say we, I mean everyone who's engaging in this. And it takes a comfort with uncertainty. So we need to teach people to be comfortable with uncertainty. We need to teach people about their cognitive biases to make sure that what we are putting in and taking out, that we're being thoughtful and intentional about that we're not just propagating more systemic bias in these systems. Along the way, we can help folks think about like prompt engineering and upskill where we need to. We can start getting a head start on what the use cases might be, on evolving our current workflows and our current opportunities so that employees look at this as a growth opportunity for themselves as well as for the business. And if you start that cultural journey now at the start, you bring everyone along with you. I think the companies that do that and do that well are going to be the companies that really succeed.